different a lot of different European papers are like, he has revitalized songwriting in Europe, and he has changed the way that we view it, which is really cool. So
don't believe everything you read, but it's nice. Yeah, they've been kind to me.
It sounds like you've been kind to them. There's been a lot of really amazing positive press and like about the revitalization and reinvigoration of the songwriter based on your teachings and workshops and creating an enterprise where previously there wasn't a strong one. So
yeah, nature abhors a vacuum. So I just happened. Some of it was just being there at the right time.
That's it. But that's half the battle.
Yep.
That's like actually
recognizing 80%. That you're there.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, this is
acting,
it.
And then acting.
Right. That's actually 80% of the battle.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
There you go. Thank you so much. I'm going to take over.
Okay. So welcome. I'm going to spend our time together. We're going to spend our time together. In a moment, I'm going to ask you a little bit about each of you, so I have a sense of what you're doing and why you chose to be here tonight. It is a choice. It's especially a day where a lot of people are needing to do other things as we come to grips with the changes. And I have a lot to say, a lot I could say, but it will be shaped and directed by what I hear from you. My premise, I like to always say at the beginning, what my intention is, and that is my intention is to offer up some things that I've learned, not to put them to you as this is true, but I put it, this is true for me at the moment. It's always at the moment, because I really believe we're learning all the time, and I might have an amazing conversation tomorrow that changes my perspective on one of the things I talk about. But I have learned some lessons, mostly, they say, the hard way, through the experience of making errors. But errors are, that's how I learn. I mean, when things are going great, what are you learning? It's usually when you hit adversity, you learn. And I have a 40-year career now. Well, the career did not start at the age of 14. That's when I wrote my first song. But actually, yes, I started my first band at the age of 14. So I actually played my first club date as a lead singer at the age of 14. Lied about our age. Got it. And that was 1977. So that's a bit daunting to consider. And since then, I've been written over 1,000 songs, and quantity not meaning quality. I wouldn't pull out. I'd probably take 20% of them and take them out and say, yeah, these are still, I stand by these. The point is to continue writing. I've stopped worrying about whether the world or the audience or the market gets the next song. I can't worry about that, because if I do, I know how to worry. And then it gets in the way of my flow. So I just put them out there. And songs involved in about 20 albums. No major hits, top 10 in Denmark. But a lot of songs I'm proud of, and some film and some TV, commercial use. And then figuring out a way to follow this passion, this calling, this deep ingrained need to use my gift. It's interesting. I used to say, when I heard people say you have a gift, or about others or myself, I thought it was about you have you've been gifted. Or no, you are gifted. That was the idea. So you have some amazing talent, which was what they meant. But I think of it now, I have a gift to give, rather than I also feel I've received something, but it's more of, it's almost, I want to use the word responsibility. That sounds a bit heavy-handed, but you're given something. Either use it or hand it over to someone else, So part of this work, coming here and doing this today is also a paid part of my income stream, is guest speaking. But I really enjoy it, because I think, well, I've slugged away for 40 years at this, and I went to classes from about the age of 17, songwriting workshops and things. And you'll take away from this what you need to take away. So my hope is that you get something, even if it's just confirmation of something you're thinking about. You go, okay, that's the 10th time I heard it. It might be true for me too, or perhaps provoke some new thoughts or a couple of tools. And my perspective is based on first being an artist and a writer, trying to figure out how to, do that. And then over the years, because of jobs I needed to take and where that path led me, becoming what was commonly known as a gatekeeper. Being on the other side of this desk. Like, I was over there pitching my songs, and then I was over here deciding who got the songs cut or not, or on the radio, or on the festival, or on the showcase. And it shifted my perspective, because now I had walked in the shoes of the people I'd been, angry because I didn't return my phone calls. And now I was like, I can't return all the phone calls. So it's a more balanced approach, I think. So let's find out who's in the room. So here are my questions. I would like you to say your name, where you're from, just because it's interesting. I know it's such an international. It's amazing how many different nationalities were represented in the workshops yesterday, and what you're currently doing, like with your music or musical career, or what you're doing and what your aspirations are. And the last, so it's name, where you're from, what you're doing with aspirations, kind of a double question. And then what, if anything, why you came tonight and what you're hoping to get out of it. Even if it's, I'm not sure, it just sounds like a good idea. That's fine. So we'll start with you, because I keep directing all my questions to you.
My name is Attilio.
Attilio.
I am from Toronto, Canada. My musical aspirations, ideally would like to write for a living, for a steadier living while performing my original music. That's the dream. And why I'm here, we're moving into the world of the independent, and I think
we're there.
Really, to be honest. And I think it's important to know and to be as multifaceted as possible and have as many angles before heading into the outside world. And I'm a senior, so I just want as many different viewpoints as possible. And so this is just another amazing viewpoint that I can take from.
Great. Thank you. And
okay. My name is Unse, and I'm from South Korea. Yeah. And right, I want to make my own record and then produce for other people, and then write for other people. Yeah. And that's what I want to do. And then now I'm preparing to produce some of the tracks.
Okay.
For myself. I'm learning it how to do it and how to do it. And then here, yeah, I'm trying to attend every things, but especially tonight, I was feeling recently I'm thinking that I want to be engaged in the industry, like to make to produce, and so that I can hear more of the things I like in the music scene. Yeah, so yeah.
And when you're writing your songs, is it vocal and instrumental? They're conventional songs, or what sort of music are you?
Like my thing is very typical singer-songwriter.
Okay, singer-songwriter. Well, family. We're family. Distant cousins. And are you writing in your native language or
yeah,
English?
I'm doing both things.
Both.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And then I'm interested. I'm not decided if I will stay here or
go back.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
Mafala?
My parents are from Spain,
but
I was born and raised in London. My aspiration was to become a performer.
Are you performing now? Okay, so you are a performer, but to continue as a performer. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
But also write for other people. There's no more joy than having someone else sing your song.
Excuse me, I think I left the drive-in here.
Yes, that is it.
There you go.
We're gonna keep
It's a
it
drive-in.
safe for you,
Yes.
But the reason why I came here is I always come to these lectures because they really just teach something so important. Not that Berkeley teachers don't, they're amazing too, but it's just something a little bit more that isn't part of the Berkeley bubble. We're very lucky that the songwriting department sees people.
Thanks for being here. Now, the questions I put to the group, which now you have a chance to answer. Your name, where you're from, what you're doing in music, and your aspirations to where that will continue. And then now I know why you're here tonight because you're the coordinator, but at the same time, what you might be hoping to get out of this evening, because it helps to direct my conversation.
So my name's Jordan. Hi, Dennis. I'm actually a vocalist and a violinist, kind of backwards. I got my undergrad in violin in Illinois, and I got a secondary diploma in vocal jazz here in Boston at New England Conservatory, just down the road. So I work as the songwriting department coordinator for like 2 more years.
No, graduating?
I am not a student at all.
Okay.
I work, this is a full-time gig for me.
But only for 2 more weeks. There's been a change.
What?
Wait, I didn't hear that.
Oh, no,
2 years.
I'm so sorry. I the job that I applied for with Larry.
This is a good thing. You're going
Yeah,
on to something you wanted.
That's why I was
Okay.
like, relax.
She seemed pretty cheerful.
Yeah. So I got fired. No. I got
That can also be a really good thing.
really good thing sometimes.
Yeah.
But I got a promotion. So
Okay,
this is
great.
actually the last seminar. This is my last one.
Wow, it's like the last waltz. That's 40th anniversary.
Yeah, here we go. So I actually really love coming to these. Unfortunately, often I have students, which is why I was calling, but they didn't answer. So we'll see. They're outside my house. I should have answered the phone. But typically, when I can come to these, I love coming to these because I am also an artist. I manage a band, and I manage myself. So it's really amazing to hear to just try and figure out how to do this thing. There's so many, especially upon graduation, there's like too many options, but all of this at the same time, none.
Yeah.
And it's I wish that I had something like this when I was in school. And luckily I'm not too old. So I get to kind of come in and hear what's happening and hear what I should be doing and hear how to progress on both sides of the coin, which is so amazing.
The age question comes up a lot in this industry because there's a standard of selling youth, and I'm not going to debate that. I mean, it just is. People seem to be more motivated by ads that show young and healthy. Unless, I guess senior citizens are motivated by young and healthy looking senior citizens in their ads when they're selling laxatives and Viagra. But whatever works. But the idea that with songwriters, which I found really comforting as I continue to be on the planet, what I do, is that yes, I have aged out of my opportunity to be a teen pop star. I have aged out of the chance for my band to get signed in my mid-20s. I've aged out of all those. But as a songwriter, I just continue to develop. And when I write songs, it's ageless.
Yes, that's it.
And that's wonderful.
Yeah.
If you stay open to it, if you stay current, if you stay informed. And I've really had that, I've seen that through the retreats, not only in my own experience, but I'll speak a bit more about those, but matching up, having people coming into a setting, they're international, very much so like here. And for instance, a year ago in Ireland, I had a young Faroese, the Faroe Islands, this is part of the Danish Principality of Denmark, beautiful place. A young Faroese writer who only composed on his laptop, and very fascinating stuff, and loops and rock, and I mean, just really interesting. And a 66-year-old British traditional folk picker and writer, and both of them very strong in what they did. And I put them together, and they looked at each other and they said, they talk about the process later. They looked at each other and said, "How is this possibly going to work?" We had half different universes. Well, culturally perhaps, but they cohabitate in the music universe. and they had so much fun. And they wrote a song that neither of them would ever have come up with.
Right.
It was neither. I heard they were both in it, but neither, neither of what they brought to the table was anything like what happened.
Yeah.
And now I believe, I'm pretty sure, I would need to fact check this. That's wrong. YouTube. I believe that Rogvi, the young artist from Rugby, I never pronounced it right. I just called him Rogue. That he's put it on his latest album with his band.
Wow.
So it's just, I love that.
That's so cool.
And certainly for me, when I co-write, maybe getting ahead of myself, but when I stopped needing every song to be about me, and I think it's valid when you're, whatever your process. A lot of people start out with, I need to write about these things in my life and process. I still do that, but when I could surrender it needing to be about me and just sort of, what song wants to show up today? That was fascinating. And I could write from the perspective of a 14-year-old girl, or a cowboy on the range, or I working with people that are doing hip hop and death metal, and I mean it's just like, okay, we're all playing with the same 12 notes and a bunch of different sounds, and let's see what happens. So that's very cool. All right, well that's good to know who's here, and I'm going to start with just sort of take you through my timeline. And then I'm going to, the second half, and I'll watch the clock and I'll leave time for questions, are a few of the I call them Perkins principles, just because I like to make phrases. I'm a writer. Yeah, and alliteration. Of things that I've learned the hard way, by mistakes. And I now, mistakes are wonderful because they teach. So my starting out, I mentioned before, I was conscious that I was writing my first song. I was conscious of the process when I was 14. I was writing poetry and I was singing from when I was a small kid, and I dreamed of, but from about the age of, that I can recall, about the age of 8 or 9, I dreamed of being a pop star. I mean, and it's funny to think of it now because it's not in my current record collection. But for me, the kid who was about my age, who I saw being famous and being on talk shows and all that, there were two of them. There was Michael Jackson, who I thought was phenomenal. I couldn't even touch it. I didn't imagine I would be Michael Jackson because it was just beyond, it was just incredible. And then there was Donny Osmond.
I was like, it's I know.
Donny Osmond was like, wait a minute, he's my age. His favorite color is purple. Me too. It was like the Purple Socks. That kind of did it. And a song, and they called it Puppy Love. And I recently I Googled it or YouTube, and I found it, and I listened, and I thought, oh my God. But I was 9. It was perfect for me. I had puppy love. So I wanted that, and there's part of the journey has been both honoring that sort of desire to have everyone singing your song, the positive sense of wanting your songs to impact the world, wanting to share your music from a joyful place, and then dealing with what part of wanting to be a star was about compensating for feeling less than loved, and not to say I wasn't loved, but I came out of there were wonderful people in my life, and there were very damaged people in my immediate family. So I got some of both. Fortunately enough, with the love to continue this journey. But I had to deal with a lot of self-esteem issues. So this was compensation. They'll love me. Everyone will love me, and no one knows me.
Yeah.
Which sort of Facebook's like for everybody kind of version of that. I have 5,000 friends and I've never felt so alone. Anyway, so I went on from there, and I had my first band. I started collaborating for the first time when I was 16, and that was interesting. Finding a real partner, an intimate friendship, and creating music together. And then I went on to have my first couple bands, and sort of the garage band and the local party band, the cater bands we call them, there's cakes and beer at the party, every underage and all that. And then my first real band, which made 2 EPs from 81 to 84. I got college radio, and we had a sponsorship with Vans tennis shoes. And I got that sponsorship. So, I'm 18 years old, and I'm going, bands usually have a look. Clothes are expensive. We need marketing. We don't have any budget. We're called the Sneaks. They call those sneakers. I'm going to go down to the local Vans store, because I like Vans anyway. And I'm going to ask them, you know, chat with the local person who's my age and likes the band, and you know, and say, where are bands? Oh, they're based in Southern California. Wow. Is there like a marketing person I can tell? Sure, here's the story, you didn't call them. And then put a press kit together, and you know, I was suddenly a marketer, you know, and I wasn't studying marketing then. I just knew I wanted something to happen, and I ended up getting we didn't get money, but we got product. We got 10,000 stickers, bumper stickers that said the Sneaks Rockin' in band shoes with their logo on it and our logo on it, you know, and I mean, so 10,000 stickers for a little, you know, band out of Arcadia, California, community of homes with no music venues. We had them all, but, and then they started to make custom shoes for us with our logo around them. And this was revolutionary back then, you know. Now it's, but and then our fans could buy those. People could order those. Cool. So we started bringing something back into there, you know, and it just was like, it was a very cool thing. So yeah, sort of that was the beginning of my realizing that you could create partnerships, and that the need, money is a factor, but you don't have to always find money. You just need to find complementary needs and assets, and find out how to work with them. And one of my key, so I'm going to bounce back and forth, I can see this now because I learned these lessons as I went along. One of my key points that I speak of regularly is we're going to be asking a lot of people, you know, would you like to sign my band? Would you like to book my band? Would you like to work together on my album? And that's just a part of the deal. But I developed the sense very early on that to always have an offer with the ask. Always offer when you ask. Because if I offer you something, even if you can't use it, but I say, if I can be of help in this specific area, not just, hey, call me sometime if you know, but if I learned your business, like I looked at bands, I saw the youth market, you know, I looked, they were selling basically to like 12 to 17-year-olds. That was our audience. We were 17, we were playing on local parties, high schools, junior highs. And so I could go to them and say, this is what we want, and this is what we can do for you. And so it was, I mean, they're promoting their business, and we were, you know, this big, but I made us look about this big, and they saw the potential, and that we were, you know, already plugged into their market, and we had been loyal customers, and so we got something, and it didn't cost anybody anything. So that's a big one, you know, offer it before you ask. And I'm in that gatekeeper. I've been in various, you know, gatekeeper positions, just meaning I need to decide whether something happens for someone or not. And I can assure you the people who write to me and are polite and say, you know, I know you're really busy, and I know you get a lot of requests, and if I could ever, I also know that you are a recording artist, or I also know that see that you tour, and you know, I see that you tour and you put on an event every year in Ireland. I know some folks over there, and you know, if I can help spread the word, or you know, and then I think, oh, we're going to work together. This is a relationship, not someone who wants something from me. Those are the people I get back to, and I form relationships, even if those things don't come to pass. So just learning that was a huge thing. You know, it makes sense. It's not like rocket science, you know, but unless we're conscious about it, we often can be so focused on, I want to get this done, this project, that we forget that nobody owes us anything. Anything. No matter how amazing we believe we are, and I hope you do, you know, because you need that faith and that conviction. So went on from the Sneaks, and then the band breaks up because the bass player left. It's always the bass player. If it was a drummer, I'd say it's always the drummer. If it was the singer, that was me, I'd say it's always the singer. You know, we hit our mid-20s. It hadn't happened. Some bands around us had been signed. Not that getting signed is, you know, everything, but we thought it was. And we started to panic. And parental pressure. So first the bass player went off and got a degree as a veterinary. He was going to veterinary. Now he works for the Water Bureau in California. You know, these were bright guys. The other went off and got a marketing and finance degree. And then we split up. You know. Actually, except for our drummer, who I can say this lovingly, I would have voted least likely to succeed in music, because he didn't want to sing, and he wasn't really, you know, that committed to rehearsing and all that. He was just, you know, easygoing guy. And he ended up having the most successful music career of all of us. He became Tortelvis in a band called Dred Zeppelin, an Elvis impersonator singing Led Zeppelin songs to a reggae beat with Rastafarian. So you get Stairway to Heaven. There's a lady who knows all that glitters is gold, and she's buying the stairway to heaven, baby. And it sold 1.5 million records, IRS records. Robert Plant said in an interview in Rolling Stone it was his favorite band. Jimmy Page hated the band, so great press. Played major festivals, toured all around. They still do reunion shows, play in Rio for New Year's Eve, and yeah. So go figure.
Yeah.
And I was happy for him. And was I jealous? Yes, because I was the singer. And it didn't happen. I was pissed. So getting to deal with that stuff, so I think a huge part of the journey is becoming self-aware, and that's a lifelong process. And learning to deal with the ego, which we all have. And the part of it that's this hopefully very solid belief in yourself, and the part that is jealous and envious and angry. Impatient. I mean, Jordan and I had an experience of that from my end just the other day, because I had been asking for some information, and then I was in my own I was feeling a bit pressed with scheduling, and then she had sent me the information, and I didn't see it because Gmail, and none of this is excuses. I'm going to get to that point in a minute. But what was going on for me is Gmail and Outlook both. No, I was using Hotmail. I digress for a moment. They just changed their entire program.
Yes, it's all weird.
And it's like, okay, I don't understand this. So my partner has been for a long time encouraging me, like, you still use Hotmail. So get over to Gmail. So I have a Gmail. So I said, okay, everything's going to Gmail, but forward. It wasn't forwarding.
And of course it didn't.
And then I don't know how to work Gmail. So, so when I hit respond, I can't see your message. I'm just like, okay, so I didn't see it. And I wrote back and said, I've asked for this several times, and I'm a bit, I don't think I said I was frustrated, but my tone was a bit insistent. And then as soon as I hit send, and I knew I was a little triggered. I could feel it because I've been practicing this, that I had a bit of a tude going. And I thought, never hit send. Write the draft and then go back, write it offline so you don't accidentally send it. And then get that out, journal about it, whatever, jump up and down, make a joyful noise, whatever, and then come back and send the mail. And double check that check your facts. I didn't do that. I was tired, I was grumpy, whatever. I had too much coffee, not enough coffee, whatever. I hit send. And the second I hit send, the messages come back together, and I go, right there, she just sent it to me on Friday. And here I am on Monday, having an attitude. And I thought, wow, there's that lesson again. It's called the impatience lesson. And I just, told my partner, and she said, what was my main point other than to show you my clay feet? The idea with writing the first draft and not, being clear about where you're coming from. And again, nobody owes you anything. I could have also, asked around and found that information out if I was really needing it. And then I thought about it. I didn't really need it. I knew the dates. I knew the basic times. It was in I was being a little bit lazy. I wanted, her to kind of go reconfirm everything that was in my files. So, and when I get a mail from an artist who, for instance, I get these all the time. People write to me because I say, you're welcome to write to me. And I'm known as someone who helps people, and, that's fine. And I will always answer the first email and give whatever information I can free, even though I'm a consultant and I'm not paid by a company. I mean, it's me. So, I bill for my time. But the first mail is always free because I want to help people. But they need to help me help them. So if they write to me and say, yeah, I've always wanted to tour Europe, and I was just wondering if you could send me some booking agent contacts and, how much money I could make, what time of year I should tour. And it's just like this, you want me to manage your career, and, you're not helping me to help you. And the second thing often that follows that, I'll write back. It takes me a while to write back, first of all. And then sometimes I'll get a follow-up mail that says, basically checking in. The good ones are just checking in. I know you're busy, all that. But often the people who wrote the very long mail are the ones saying, I sent you a mail 2 weeks ago. And as soon as that tone shows up, I'm like, back away from the computer. I'm not going to write back to you, or it's going to take me a long time to get there. And people shoot themselves in the foot all the time just by the way they communicate. Well, we're songwriters. we're communicators. So look at the lyric. Look at the mail you sent as a lyric. You want to get to the point. You want to keep them engaged. You want to make it interesting, not too long, and don't just talk about yourself. It shaped my thinking quite a bit. Fast forward, the band broke up. I went into advertising because I was tired of being broke, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed having money for the first time. I had a nice condo, I had a nice Beamer, and then a convertible custom Firebird, looked like a Ferrari, and I drove too fast, got a lot of tickets, and I was living the life. I was kind of doing the LA thing, and I had a condominium that was appointed in beautiful vintage guitars. I had Rickenbacker prototypes from the Beatles era. I had the Beatles amps, all this, and a good friend came over, and I wanted to show him my place. I was so excited. He said, "Wow, it looks like the apartment of a rock star," and I was like, "Yeah," and he said, "But you're not playing music, are you?"
No.
He said, "So to me, it's more like a mausoleum." And one of my favorite quotes from Oscar Wilde, the Irish writer, it's "A good friend stabs you in the front." He did, and I kind of got that. And then that was like a little wake up call. And then the big wake up call was my father died within 1 year of that time, 1991, and I was not close to him. It wasn't traumatic, it had its own process. I think you always process that, but it reminded me of my mortality. And I thought, do I want to go out, selling advertising? I'm having a good time, but yeah, it wasn't enough. So I went back to music. I gave up the business. I had to give up the car, had to give up the condo, moved into a little house, a big house with a little room with 5 other people, and was broke. And some days I panicked. But I had family I wasn't, and I found a part-time job. I wasn't, first world problems. I wasn't suffering. I was adjusting, and most of the time though, I had free time for the first time in a long time. I was writing songs. Yeah. And I was playing them, and I was just stepping out again after being in this rock band where, and stepping out solo. And my fragiles, my personal songs, not my angry rock and roll, teen angst songs, which were personal, but my really tender kind of private songs that I was only writing in the bedroom and maybe show a girlfriend, maybe. And I played my first solo concert, and it was dead silent, and I was intimidated, I wouldn't believe, and it ended up being a full house, about 60 people. And people cried when they heard some songs. I went, oh, this is what I want this. I want this connection. This is just not about me. It's about their being moved by what I've said. So huge turning point for me. Then I went to work for the National Academy of Songwriters. I was a volunteer. It's no longer in existence. It actually merged with the Songwriters Guild, which is based in New York and Los Angeles. Perhaps, I'm not sure if they have an office in that. But at the time, we were the largest nonprofit for songwriters, and I became a volunteer because I wanted community. And this is the other, because you're here in a setting, Berkeley, where there's a lot of people. I see a lot of guitars. I see a lot of people who are very passionate. If you wouldn't be here if you weren't passionate about it. Made a commitment of time, money, and energy. And I spent so much time and money and energy up to that point and during that time trying to vertically market. Like I think, oh, if only Quincy Jones would hear my songs, or if only somebody from Sony, because I was still convinced that I was amazing. I was just waiting to be acknowledged. And I spent so much energy and time and money sending packages and sending, recording all these elaborate demos and all that. When in fact, looking back, my songs were not developed enough, And here I was spending all this time. And actually, my theory shifted later, and this is another of my points, horizontal networking. Like, have you ever heard of the 6 degrees of separation? Common idea that we are only 6 people away at most, which I think is quite true. My theory about the music industry, in my experience, 2 degrees of separation. Because it's a small community. Even though there's a lot of students here, and you got Berkeley and LA, and you got the online, and you've got, the LIPA, where I'm going to be doing this workshop next year, which I'm excited about. And you've got, there's a lot going on, a lot of people making music. But those who stay in it, like those who survive, who make the long run, which is what we're talking about, small percentage. And what I found, I'm 54 now, And I just took a look around and realized my peers, the ones who stayed with it, who I've known for 25 years, like Ralph Jackadine, who brought me in, like Bonnie Hayes, who I met, all these people are 20, 25 years ago. The reason I'm here, they're running the industry.
Mm-hmm.
So patience, persistence, and not wasting too much time trying to shoot for the moon. I mean, it's good to have those big goals, and yeah, if you've got access to something, why not? But this is your community.
Yeah.
So community building and finding where I belong, the community I belonged in, became a really big part of what I do. And in fact, the retreats, which I started in 2002 and have now produced in over 70 events in 9 countries, and they're annually in 8 events in 7 countries, with a couple more being added next year. It's called Community and Co-writing, Community through Co-writing. Listening Room International Songwriter Retreats, Community through Co-writing. And the more than 1,000 writers who've participated from over 20 countries now are family with each other. They tour in each other's country, they record with each other, they help each other get their songs out there. You have allies now, you're not alone. And one of my partners for many years, well, still my partner on the Estonia retreat is a Swedish songwriter, Annika Failing, and her point, her word, she says, breaking isolation. Breaking the isolation of being an artist. And that's what we're doing, and that's what she's doing in her work and some others. And it's critical, because you can't do it alone. I mean, you can, but it's hard to keep the energy up, synergy versus independent self energy. So finding that community of people with like mind, like spirit, like ambition, and it's different for everybody. We all resonate with different people, just like we do with music, different types of music. So through NAS, I ended up becoming, kept opening my mouth and volunteering, and eventually became marketing director, managing director, executive director, CEO. And at that point, I'm producing the Salute to the American Songwriter, and I'm presenting Randy Newman, Joni Mitchell, Lieber and Stoller, Alan and Marilyn Bergman, Babyface, Diane Warren. It was just like, okay, this is interesting. I was never starstruck. I think if McCartney had showed up, I would have probably peed my pants. But Burt Bacharach comes out and plays Alfie solo on the piano. Art Garfunkel comes out and sings Bridge Over Troubled Water. I was in heaven. And I got to talk to these songwriters, and they're pretty happy people overall, But I noticed that when I talked to them about songwriting, they were most interested in the next song. So I thought, okay, we're all the same that way, And who's got more pressure? The one who sold 5 million. I mean, Joni Mitchell, she was put through the ringer. They wanted everything to sound like Big Yellow Taxi or the Blue album. It's like, that's it. So I started to get more into the psychology around songwriting, because there was so much about flow and getting stuck and all that. And that has informed most of my work now. The retreats are based on community building models, and you could even say a kind of group therapy. I'm not a licensed therapist, but we sit together and acknowledge that we're all equal, and we all have equal passion, regardless where we are in our development level. And we, as human beings, want to help each other. And so it's a matter of, as an artist, as an indie, to get back to the career stuff, how do I help people help me? And first of all, it's by offering at the same time as asking. And the second, another one of the points is under promise and over deliver. I don't know if you've ever heard that phrase. It took me a long time, because in my enthusiasm, in my desire and my faith, when I said yes to too many projects, and I said I'll be there, and I said I'll do that, and of course call me anytime, I ended up disappointing a lot of people. And it wasn't because I was flaky, and it wasn't because I didn't care. It's because I didn't have a realistic sense of my energy, or how to manage my energy. And so I overpromised, and I always saw it, because I'm a dreamer. We're visionaries. I mean, we see it before it's finished. We conjure songs out of wherever, the zeitgeist, wherever it comes from. So yeah, I can see it happening. So for me, it's already happened. And part of that's wonderful, because that's motivation, that's faith. That's what is definition of faith is believing what you cannot see. So that's powerful stuff. But if you float too many of those castles in the air, they crash. And so under promising and over delivering, big point for me. So fast forward, I don't need to take you through the whole bio, but I left the academy, and I moved to Denmark. And people ask me, how did you end up in Denmark? And I say, I moved there for the weather, of course, because I'm from Southern California.
It's cold.
The weather in Denmark is very
It's
cold.
awful.
No, I moved there for love. I met a Danish songwriter in Ireland in 1996. I followed her home, basically. And we spent a few years trying to figure out how to live in each other's countries. And I found out that Denmark had cultural funding, which I was like, what's that? What's
What
that?
is
Right, right.
You
Yeah.
fund culture. And so I brought they didn't have a songwriting scene. And I'd just come out of this thriving scene. We had the Acoustic Underground at the Troubadour in LA, which packed 300 people, A&R. We had AAA radio. This was mid-90s. The whole singer-songwriter thing was back.
Yeah.
They didn't call it singer-songwriter. It was Americana.
Yeah.
Alt Americana. All this stuff. Roots, whatever. It was singer-songwriters.
Yeah.
And that's where I met Bonnie. She was coming out. And so I went there and I gave a little talk, about the music industry, because they all want to come here and play their songs, and we all want to go there. And most people who are writing in English, they want to, go somewhere else that sounds exotic.
Yeah.
And they ended up hiring me to do workshops, and then pretty soon I was doing workshops, and it was retreats, and blah, 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 blah. And then I was in business, and I could hire 5 writers. Now here in Los Angeles, I started the Listening Room concert series in 1993. House concerts. That's what I was doing. When I scaled down to that little house, and we had people like Lisa Loeb, who was a Berkeley grad. When she wrote "Stay," she was still working on it. She played it in a coffee house to 12 people in Monrovia, California.
Cool.
I remember. Yeah, and that I took those shows into a small theater, and we didn't make money. It wasn't about the money. It was about heart. We wanted this. We needed this. I wanted to play in a room where people listened, and that was called the Listening Room. It's not my term that I evolved, although at the time I thought I did. And I got the .com, listeningroomconcerts.com. And people would come. Sometimes there'd be more artists than people in the audience, but slowly and surely we found our audience and we built it up. We get 30, 40, 50 people, and sometimes we could pay the rent, give everybody gas money, have some free coffee from the local coffee place that I got to sponsor it. So all that back to that general that Horizon networking, and what can we do for you? Well, they were this hip coffee house, and they wanted our demographic to come to their place, and blah, blah, blah. And when I brought it to Denmark, they said, here's the equivalent of about $10,000 to start. And I said, okay, but how many tickets do we have to sell? No, it's not your responsibility to sell tickets. But some of these artists might not draw, but we don't require you to draw. This is culture. We're supporting culture. It's like, yes! I knew it. I knew this place existed. That has changed over the years because the world economy. I mean, the last round with the double mortgage back, slap thing that we started. Wonderful. Smacked down a whole lot of cultural funding. But still, it's the European countries, and I realize that's very gross generalization because they're all so different. But in general, Scandinavia, I'll just say, cultural funding still exists, much higher, I would say, regard and respect for independent music overall. And it's still a really interesting place to be, and I'm not leaving. I have a 7-year-old daughter, so I'm really not leaving. And I don't want to. And then the last bit is now, the point of this going through my life story is that it's not been one thing. All the way through, it's been songwriting. All the way through, it's been this burning passion to work for myself, because when I worked for other people, I didn't get to direct what I did, and that meant I had less time to do my art. And how to do that. And when I was at the academy, and I'm sure the figure can be adjusted for inflation, but there was a study done. I don't recall who did the study, but at that time in the early 90s, the average, they were trying to get rid of, we were lobbying in Washington to try and stop digital recording. The whole Spotify was coming, and we saw it coming and went, oh shit, and the conservative government, senators and congressmen, who thought that, I think somewhere in their psyche that rock music was the music of the devil. People who just put in Trump. That mentality has never gone away. And they talked about popular music as drugs, degeneration of children, unnatural acts, and morally corrupt. And that these people were so rich, why should they worry about a few dollars. You know, they got plenty of money because they would quote Madonna and Michael Jackson. It's like, so we did a study. I mean, whoever I don't remember, but the Songwriters Guild. And the average professional songwriter, this was someone who was committed as a professional. They were getting cuts, made $10,000 a year. That was the average. And I thought, okay, I'm not at that level as a writer. I realize I'm not, you know, commercially viable yet, which is something to realize too, which you can't really see until you see it. That's looking back, I can say it. I may get there, but when I get there, is that what I'm going to get? You know, because a lot of us driven by that brass ring, and nothing wrong with the big dream, but how am I going to pay my bills doing that? You know, and especially in the U.S. where there's no ceiling, but there's often no floor. So, and that's why people work 2 jobs and they get burned out and their music gets, you know, pushed aside to side to side. So I started looking at what I call the hybrid model, which is, this has become true for even the people who are, I know a lot of, you know, people with big long resumes of discographies of hit songs. And they made a lot of money at that time, but you know, royalties run down, things don't get played as much just because you had some hits in the 80s. Well, you probably bought that house, and, you know, you didn't pay it off. You don't have a hit now. and the staff writer positions and all this that people, you know, the 70s model and the 80s model, that's gone. And record sales are gone. And downloading is free. You know, so, and I'm not pessimistic about it. It's just that, oh, it's changed. So how do we do this? So this was a revelation for me recently because I looked for ways to make money. So I started being paid to guest speak, which for me was, I was already guest speaking. I was an entertainer because I couldn't make the same money on my gigs. And I started to co-write a lot strategically, not just for fun, because time was money, because somebody had to pay the bills, with young artists who were making their initial albums. And in Europe, that was really good for me because English was my first language and it was their second language. And they wanted to write in English. And I had a lot of years of how to put a song together in a tight arrangement that, you know, these younger artists weren't there. They had loads of talent, but they had they were diamonds, but they hadn't been quite cut and polished yet. And I ended up with my first top 10 over there. And I say first, it was my only top 10. But I made more money off that than I ever had off a song. And I went, light bulb. And then I started consulting with songwriters because actually I realized I don't want to co-write that much. And I'm more of an advisor. I'm more of a midwife to their songs, if you would. So I started to do that. And now that's what I do. But these pro writers who were making all that money and whose catalogs aren't paying them anymore, they're now hiring themselves out to co-write. So they're being paid a fee to co-write and they retain 50% of the song. Now, 20 years ago, that would have been, I mean, the Academy would have been screaming about that. That's egregious. How can you do that? That's usury. That's terrible. Now everybody's like, yeah, that's called survival. You know, that's what we got to do. So I have this hybrid model now. I'm still the songwriter. It's still my passion. It's still my joy. You know, playing the songs today was like so healing. You know, that was like, let's get down to what's real for me. You know, I can't control all that other stuff going on. I did my best. Bernie was my guy. I threw my vote to Hillary, you know, as the anti-Trump vote. And now I'm going to play some songs and keep going and trying to spread the love, you know, through the work. So my model now is I have the listening room retreats. That's a huge part of my income. I have the consulting. That's a large part. I do the guest speaking. I have a duo with my partner called Michelle Perkins. I have free promo postcards here. We are playing a house concert tomorrow night. Tomorrow's Friday. No, Friday night. I'm sorry. Friday evening in Somerville, if you're interested. And the guest spot tomorrow night at Passine. And we tour a lot. And then I have a band called the Pawn Shop Preachers, country band. We only play festivals, so few and far between, but it's fun. It's country. And then and I do the guest speaking. I do the consulting. I started the Copenhagen Songwriters Festival 9 years ago. I did that for 5 years, and I said, if it doesn't pay me after 5 years, you know what happened? Because it was my passion. This is always, it's never been about the money. You know, I needed money to keep doing my art, but the art's never been about the money. I don't know about you, but the first time I got paid to play a show, I was like, really? You know, I was like, do they know that I do this anyway? And I'm not saying we should not get paid, but that's like secondary. So I would put in the budget that I would pay myself a reasonable amount for the festival, and then we needed more advertising, we needed more, and I'd pour the money back in. So after 5 years, I was becoming a nonprofit. Like, you know, so I turned it into a nonprofit, and was on the board for several years, and now I'm an advisor. So I've let that go. I still have my finger on it. You know, it's my baby, but it's not my baby anymore. You know, I need to let it go. So and now out of that freed up energy, because we all have a limited amount of time. We all have the same amount of hours in a day, and we need to manage our energy. That's been a huge lesson for me. There was a line in a book by Wayne Dyer that I read in the 80s, and it said, "First be a good animal." I just liked the title. So I read the chapter, and he said, it's about, we're so caught up in, you know, strategies and business, all that. What kind of animal are you? Are you following your intuition? Are you following your gut? You know, that's what animals do. They don't have what we think. They don't have logic. They don't have they don't live in the future. They don't live in the past. They're in the moment. And if you could be, now you look at Eastern philosophy, you know, spiritual, how do you stay calm? How do you be centered? You live in the moment. You inhabit the moment. The power of now. You know, it's all out there, but it takes a while to embrace and find your own way. And then, what kind of animal are you? And so, you know, I read books on songwriting, and these people who got up every morning and they wrote for 2 hours no matter what. And I thought, yeah, I'm going to do that. Just like I joined a gym every year, didn't go. Just like I bought a bunch of recording gear and never learned how to work it. You know, so because I'm not that animal. You know, I got another way of doing it. And some people might say, well, it's a lazy way. Well, yeah, it's my way, and it works for me. You know, so my way of enabling my music dream is to run around doing stuff that's fun and creative and interesting. And yeah, I work a lot. I get up about 4:30 in the morning. That's my normal schedule. But I don't get up because I have to, and I don't use an alarm clock. I get up because I want to, and I'm doing cool stuff. You know, so I have all these little bits, and the point is with this. And now I'm doing tours, organizing tours. I do what's interesting to me. None of it makes me a large amount of money, because I didn't start with any of it to make money. And I've had plenty of business people say, "What? You're underselling yourself." And my partner has been very helpful in bringing me up. But each of them is a small stream. If I'm going to be a professional songwriter and make the equivalent of $10,000 in the 90s, whatever that is now, that I can't pay rent with that. So then I'm going to do a certain amount of guest speaking like this, and you know, Berkeley's not a high-paying place, but it's great for my resume. I love the work. I'm here for 2 weeks. I was a guest speaker in Michigan this last weekend for a retreat, paid. I'm here doing 4 workshops in 3 days, paid. I'm doing a house concert, which we'll get whatever is donated at the door, and overall, I think I'm breaking even on the trip. Cool. Because this is my first time. I fully intend to be a regular here on an annual basis, you know, and to go back, and being a guest on that retreat, which had 47 writers on it. Wow. Some of them are going to come to my retreats. So, you know, it's investing. So following my gut, sometimes needing to pay more attention to the bottom line, but also being willing to sacrifice, which doesn't even feel like a sacrifice. You know, when I gave up the condo and the Beamer and all that, I didn't miss it. I kind of I got to play with the toys, and then I went, is this all there is? When my dad died, it's like, is this all there is? You know? So I'm living in this little room, and yeah, sometimes I'm freaking out because I don't have any money, but most of the time I'm having a hell of an amazing time because I'm playing my songs and people are connecting to them, and I'm meeting other writers who have the same philosophy, and we're traveling together and touring together. I ended up in Europe, my dream. I'm living in Europe, you know. So I feel like, knock on false wood, I'm grateful that I'm here and that I survived it, and that the drugs I got into in my late teens, trying to self-medicate mood disorders and all that other stuff, didn't kill me, and I got out, and I didn't stay addicted. I didn't have addictions. I had emotional addictions, but not physical addictions. And I just, one of the things about getting older, I don't want to sound like an older guy, like, when I was your age, but because I feel I'm still 17. You know, there's a Satchel Paige, this wonderful quote from the gentleman Satchel Paige. He had 2 great quotes, at least 2. They're well known. One is, how old would you be if you didn't know how old you are? That's great. And he said the other one, everywhere you go, there you are. He had quips. My inner writer is, 9 years old, 10 years old, 12 years old. I don't know. It's timeless. It's ageless. And yet, at 54, in the last 2 years, about 20 of people I've known well have died. Because statistically, that's what happens. Yeah. And actually, none of us knows. Well, you say, see you later. I don't know. Right. Maybe there's a big beyond see you later. I don't know. But this is the only day I have, and forget that. This is the moment I have, right now. So I want to be doing stuff that matters to me, and that's music, and that's giving to others, And this is a two-way street, because out of these workshops, I've made my dearest friends from booking shows and running retreats. I met my wife through that. I have a beautiful child from another songwriter that I met through there, who I was previously married to. I have my residency. I live in Denmark because that happened. I mean, all this stuff came from going no to the more money, to the commercial life that doesn't really satisfy me, and how many, fancy dinners can you have and nice suits and all that, okay. Whatever, not taking any of it with you. And then I go to like bottom, how many times can I refreeze that and heat it in the microwave, kind of thing. And yet my life has never been more rich. So having the tenacity to stay with that, having the passion to stay with it, but being smarter, working smarter versus working harder. And that's developing your hybrid streams. So I'm just curious, like, how much collaborating do you do? Are you co-writing a lot at this point, or not to put anybody on the spot?
No, I do co-write a lot.
Okay.
Not lately, just because I'm working on my own music.
Okay, so yeah, if you're in a place where you're doing what you want to be doing,
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And are you collaborating?
Not very much, but I want to do it a lot.
Yeah.
Later.
Yeah. And yourself? You are. Yeah. Okay. One of the things that was so wonderful about collaborating, aside from no longer the song not having to be about me, is I committed 1 year, because I was teaching collaboration, but I wasn't really collaborating. So I thought I should probably do this. So I do goal setting workshops, and we're going to get to that in just a moment because it's already recorded. And I've talked a lot. And then I want to leave time for questions. I committed to having 50 co-writes, 1 a week, with 2 weeks off with behavior. And that was my goal. Did I write 50 songs? No. But I had 43 co-writes, so I did pretty well. Cool. Did I finish all 43 songs? No. How many of the songs that were finished were keepers? I'd say 12, which isn't a bad number. How many of those songs were recorded? 6. Okay. How many of them went on to albums? 5. 1 was a top 10 single, 2 other singles. So I was like, yeah, the odds are getting better. Why? Because I'm writing more. The more you write, the more stuff you have to put out there. I'm doing it with other people who are motivated. I've got 2 people working as agents for this song now, not just me. And because I got out of the way of it all has to be about me, I was enabling younger artists to realize what they wanted. Therefore, they were invested in those songs, and they put them on their albums. So, now I'll tell you something about that, though. That was this huge window that opened, and I thought, I could become a full-time, I could be the guy, the song doctor, and I could make a lot of money doing this. And it didn't appeal to me at all. For whatever reason, I thought, oh, this is the time. I know all these hit writers from LA. I've got all these contacts. Wow! And instead, I started setting up tours and setting people up from Europe to co-write with all my contacts, and all this other stuff's going. But it just doesn't. It's not the animal I am. The animal I am would rather do other things than that. So even I had a great idea. It just wasn't for me. So also part of this adjusting is back to that. What does my gut want? I know I got to pay the rent, but what does my gut want? Because if this is the only day I got, I'm going to spend it doing what's important to me, and with people that I enjoy and that are positive and are good support around me. Because the industry's got all kinds of characters in it, like the world, like the presidency. So as I said, I can talk a lot. I want to do a quick goal setting exercise with you. And this is based on the premise that, and some of you probably get this because, Berkeley gives you a wide education, but it sometimes comes as a revelation for people. You're a small businessman, men and women. You're small, you have a small business. It's called you and your music. And if you were opening a cafe or a restaurant, your aspiration was to open a place or an automobile place or a record company, you would probably need some funding. Certainly if you're going to have a retail shop. And so you would go to the bank. And the bank would say, let's see your 5-year plan. First thing, show me how you're going to get returns. Well, It's a little difficult to project returns, but we can still have a working plan. And a working plan is not setting it in stone and saying, oh yeah, now I got to commit to this. No, it's just getting it out of this place we like to dream. You know, we're dreamers, we're storytellers. We like to fantasize, daydream, you know. And sometimes, and this is not my line, but I think it's wonderful. Actually, it's Wayne Dyer. Yeah, I took a lot of this stuff in the 80s. I used to listen as I drove around in sales. He had this line that says, this place where everyone lives, all the great dreams, on someday I'll, record an album, someday I'll tour. So you get it out of this warm, fuzzy space and you put it down on paper and it becomes an objective reality. You know, it becomes like analytical. And often when people do these exercises, they'll write down their goals, say for 5 years from now, and they'll have completely opposing goals. I had one person who wanted to be touring, like their artist, and then wanted to tour the world and, you know, 200 dates a year, play Wembley and wow, you know, and be free. And at the same time, this was a female artist and she wanted 2 children. And so by then she'd have like, I don't know, 6 months, 2 years old. How are you gonna do that? I mean, it can be done, but have you thought, and oh, she hadn't seen the paradox going on there, or, you know, like not gonna necessarily work. So she had to adjust her plan, not had to, but she had the option of doing so. So I want to use the final few minutes to just do a quick, and this is just a quickie. The idea is I give you the framework, it starts you thinking. And what happens is in the subconscious, my friend Tom Kimmel, another songwriter, says, let the subconscious do the heavy lifting. You know, it's like when you start with a song idea and then you wake up in the morning and your brain has written the bridge. You know, it just, the software is running all the time. You know, we know so little about what's going on. But I'm really convinced in my own life, if I get it out of the fuzzy and the intuitive place and I get it down on paper, I can make more clear decisions. And I can always change my mind. Next day I can change it. And when I get my plan, my 1-year plan, I put it up on my wall. I put it up on my refrigerator, so that I am looking at it in the morning so that it directs my day. And if I have a few days where I go, that's not really motivating, time to change the plan. You know, so it directs, there's this phrase, it's an unknown author, it says, we cannot control the wind, but we can adjust our sails. So life's throwing you all kinds of stuff, new opportunities, a few curveballs, you know. This is your rudder. You get to adjust it, but it's like, oh, yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming in, but today, you know, if I'm going to make that album happen, if I'm going to make that move to that city where I want to be writing, if I want to go to Nashville, or I want to, you know, or if I want to get that new band together, I've broken it down. These steps. Write on, write with, or on your phone, or whatever's comfortable. I'm going to go quickly with this. I always feel like I've talked so much and there's so much more to cover. So I try to leave you with something concrete. So at the top of the note or the page, if you just write 5 years, 5-year plan. 5 years feels like a pretty long time. You know, if I think ahead 5 years in my life, I mean, a lot can happen in 5 years. And if I'm going to have a goal, a dream, this is the big dream. Like in 5 years, maybe I could record 3 albums in 5 years. Maybe. Have I ever done it in 5 years? No, but I could. If that was my burning passion. And I often think, oh yeah, I want to record this album and this album. So for me, that's something I put in my 5-year. And that's fine. It's the dream big place. So 5 years out. And if you don't think of something right away, that's okay too. You know, some people are like, oh, I know exactly what I'm going to do. Some are like, 5 years? I don't know. A lot can happen. So, you know, there's no right or wrong. You just write something down because it gives you a place to bounce against. Okay, so get a couple things related to your music 5 years from now. And then, after you got 1 or 2, and I know I'm going quickly, but hopefully you can come back and revisit this and evolve it further. Think about, in half that time, like in the next couple of years, what could I do to move, what would I like to have accomplished on the way there in 2 years, let's say, to my 5-year goal. So if my 5-year goal is to have, you know, have my own first album out and be touring in Europe. Okay, 5 years out. What could I hope to achieve in 2 years? Well, I could probably record an album in 2 years. That seems reasonable. That's not unreasonable. Then we get down to the real deal. What steps in the next year would be required to move and to realize that goal? And I break the year down into months. 12. It's a 12-step program for recovering artists. Because time flies, and there's a whole lot of things to keep you busy. So let's say you want to have your first album finished in 2 years. Let's just say that that's your goal. And in the 5 years, you're touring with it, okay? Well, first of all, you need the songs, right? It all starts with the song, as they say at the National Songwriters International Organization. And a lot of us aren't really the best judges of whether our material is that strong or not. I don't believe in good and bad songs. I mean, music is a gift, and it's amazing, and it's perfect in its own way. And yet, if you take it to the marketplace, there's some other parameters around it. It needs to be, it's still you, and you're unique, yet it needs to be the most effective version possible, I'd say. So, without, forcing anybody into any boxes, let's just take that example. We're going to make an album. Do I have strong enough material for an album, like a killer album? Like no excuses, like this is the shit, I'm totally behind it, and other people I think will be excited about it as well. I don't know, might be your answer. Well, how do I find that out? I might find a consultant who I respect, or an artist whose work I respect, someone who can guide you. Or you might say, I'm going to bounce this off 3 of my songwriting. You've got great faculty here, I guess. I'm going to say, can I buy an hour of your time, or book it, however it works, and invest the time and the money perhaps to have them review what you think are your 10 strongest songs. And I get 3 opinions, just like with a doctor, at least a second opinion. Hopefully, if they're pros and they're teachers, they're good at being objective and not just saying, it's not my, I don't like that style. I don't have to like a style to help an artist tell them how effective the song can be, even though it's still a subjective opinion. And I've done a lot of that work, and it's been very satisfying for those who can take it in. I'm not talking about becoming something you're not, being a chameleon, how do I fit in, what's hot this year. No, about taking who you are and what you do and giving it the best possible chance of moving forward. That is a process that's going to take a while, because if you realize, if you hear from those 3 professional people, you got a couple of really strong songs, and the rest, you need to rework, or some of these I would toss out and write some new material. Okay, now I'm at the 12-month plan. I got 2 songs, and I need 8 more. Okay, I might want to be looking at collaborators. That takes a while because everybody's busy. So now you're getting into your weeks of breaking it down. Like, okay, how many writing sessions does it take to get a song? And how many songs do I need to write to find 8 that are really strong? Maybe I need to write 40, like I did that year. And I didn't even get 8 because you don't know. But you got to show up for the work, but you need to schedule the work. And if you just say, oh yeah, I got to do some co-writing, and it sits out there in someday aisle, you don't do it because you got school, job, girlfriend, boyfriend, family, stuff happens. You crash your car, or you get a scholarship, whatever, and you don't do it. So let's say you have the songs, but maybe you don't have the money. How am I going to make this album? Well, you do a budget. What does it cost to realize the album you believe you need to make? And I mean, detailed. And a lot of artists I found don't want to do the details because it messes with the dream. It can feel like it's diminishing the dream. It isn't. Information is power. Whatever you resist, you strengthen. I really believe that. So if you're going, oh no, I don't want to look at that, it's going to bite you in the ass. It's going to be more expensive, and it's going to be your blocking point. So, and I've learned this the hard way. Oh my God. Some people bought houses, I made albums. So making an actual budget and saying, and then always putting like 20% above what you think, because it always takes longer, But okay, I want string quartet. I really want a string section, a real string section. What does it cost to get a string section? Budget. And I get down to the end and I go, okay, that's like an $80,000 record. That's not going to happen if I have to pay $80,000. Who do I know that I can make an offer to and barter and exchange? If I'm good at studio work, now I'm not a studio guy. So for me, I'd say, what other musicians are looking for collaborators, or they're looking to tour? Oh, I got scads of people I can put them with. I've got my network that I can open to them so that they will give me their a couple hours in the studio with their cello, or the arranger. Someone's got to arrange this string. I'm not an arranger. I hear it, but I don't know how to arrange it. Okay, I need that. Studio time, barter. I'll tell you something that I didn't think of this, but it's a brilliant idea. I'm so lucky that the guy came to me. I wanted to make an album for my band, Pawn Shop Preachers. In 2009, I made my last solo album, and I spent the equivalent in US dollars, I have to translate from Danish, of $40,000. Fortunately, half of that was culturally funded. But it was still a lot of money for me, you know. And it took 2.5 years to make it, and it hasn't paid us back in royalties and sales. So, but that's how it is, you know. I wanted to make it, and I made it. But I also said, that's it. I can't make any more solo albums like that because, you know, I don't have the money. And so I'm stuck. I got all these songs. I'm not going anywhere with it. And I'm a firm believer you need to have a goal. If there's not a destination, what happens? You start to write a song going, oh, what the hell am I going to do with that one? You know, I didn't record the last 10. And that becomes heavy. That becomes grief for a lot of people. It becomes a burden. It's like a sack, you know, of all these unrealized dreams. And it's tough. You know, cut them away. I found it tough. Let them go, or, you know, play it forward. So I was bemoaning the fact that I really wanted to make the album, and this bass player and the guys were like, yeah, we really want to make it. And the bass player owns a studio. And we've been doing some work there, and I said, I just can't keep paying for it. You know, we're not making enough gigs. And I don't want this. Everyone was excited about it. You know, that was the thing. We had a mutual excitement. So he goes off. He's a very creative guy. And he thinks about it. He's got a studio. Studios are not as active as they used to be. So he's got all this gear and all this time. So he says to me, I've come up with a plan. I figured out that to make the album that I believe we need to make as a producer, and if I was producing it, which I will if we make this deal, it's going to be about 300 studio hours for mixing, mastering, and the whole recording, because we're going to do the full deal, and we're not going to do it at all. I said, like, yeah. I was like, okay, yeah, great. I can't. Even culture funding, I can't. You know, I don't know how that's going to happen. And he said, well, here's how I think we can do it. I have the time, and I've been giving you a friendly rate. Now, if I was giving you my full retail rate, it would be this much, okay, per hour. And you know, I know you can't pay that. But you have an active catalog, and you get royalties. So I become your de facto publisher, and I get a 30-year royalties, which is how it's set up in Denmark, standard deal, for as long as it takes to pay me for the 300 hours I'm going to advance to you to make this album. Because I got the studio time, I believe in the album, I believe in you, I can see how much you're earning, and even though that's not going to pay it off anytime quickly, at least I know I'm not just, you know, blowing in the wind. So I'll get a certain amount, you continue to try to get the culture funding, and we'll keep this ball moving forward. And now we are 85% done with this album. We're almost out of those 300 hours. It's critical time, and we're going to do a crowdfunding campaign starting in January. But we only need about $3,000 to finish. Cool. You know, so that's doable. You know, and we all gave our time and energy, but nothing out of pocket. I don't feel the money that he's taking because I never see it. They pay, you know, the equivalent of ASCAP is KODA over there. They pay him, and they pay me. That's it. You know, cool. And the more I'm out gigging, and the more money that's being generated, because in Denmark you get paid royalties every time you play in a club too. Yeah. I'm telling you, it's the very kingdom of songwriters. I landed well. And I didn't know. You know, it wasn't strategic, love thing. It's amazing. And when your album's out on the radio, you get not only royalties, but you get mechanical as well. You get paid as the singer as well as the writer. Cool. So it's the way it should be.
Yes, it is.
Yes. And you get paid for every single play. You know, this theory they've been saying, oh, we only sample because you can't keep track. Bullshit. That's been bullshit for 30 years. You know, it's totally transparent. I played one song on the radio there, and I got $200. I have my first check from ASCAP for my first 2 albums that were played in 18 states on college radio, which of course pays no royalties, and all our concert dates, which of course pay no royalties, and on 2 major commercial stations in LA, which we weren't in the top 10, so we didn't show up in the sample. $1.89. I kept it. I thought it was worth more to keep it as a talisman. You know, that's what I could earn. That's why it's $10,000 a year here, or whatever it is. It's this. I mean, whole other topic. The system here is, I consider it corrupt.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And you look at the history, and, you know, the organizations were built by publishers And BMI was Broadcast Music International. The broadcasters are not your friends. They created it.
Yeah.
And ASCAP was created by publishers.
Yeah.
Trying to, I'm a little more near and dear to my heart. I'm an ASCAP member in North America. And I know some lovely people who work in these, are committed to songwriters, but that was the publishers trying to deal with the broadcasters who were using their music without paying the writers.
Yeah.
But it's half publishers. Well, publishers aren't your friends either. I'm sorry. They're cutting you half of your stuff, and they're not even helping you get cuts most of the time.
Yeah.
So, I digress. But so depending on the project, whether it's coming up with the money or how do I barter it, or coming up with the songs, which is the critical edge. And so many people spend so much money on songs that aren't ready yet. I mean, if you're going to spend $10,000 or $20,000 or a year of your life making an album, and even if it's all barter, don't you owe it to yourself to spend a few $100s and get some professional people's advice? I mean, would you go into a major business without at least talking to an attorney? Would you not study business if you were going to open a cafe? Would you not study the restaurant business and look at the figures before you decided what location? If you're buying a house, wouldn't you think about real estate values and look at the, and yet because it's our creative baby somehow, and I get it, I have a resistance to asking someone to do you like what I do, because I think I don't care. On some level, this is my art. Who are you to tell me if it's valuable or not? We're not talking about that. We're talking about music is music. That has nothing to do with that, but you're going to the music business, and now you're in sales, and now it doesn't matter if you're selling widgets or cars or Coca-Cola or songs, and that offends my inner artist every time I say it, but I understand it because I also do business. It just is the way it is, and to be pissed off about it, and we love to get together and go, the music industry, I don't waste my energy on that. Come on, I got things to do. And to wrap this up, before we take questions, cultivating that attitude, nobody owes you anything. Every day is a gift. Every moment. And I'll tell you that. I mean, after burying 20 friends in the last 2 years, I get it. It's precious. That's why I call my little girl every day and tell her I love her, and I tell myself I love me, because that's been a lot of work. And I wake up in the morning and I read positive stuff, and I find my animal needs the slow wake up, and the great first cup of coffee. A couple hours in the morning where nobody calls me, nobody knows I'm awake, and that's my mystery time. Where I don't work, I just let my brain wander, and I sometimes write a song, and I sometimes write a long letter to an old friend who popped in my head. Just like I let my soul, heart, spirit, however you frame it, kind of guide me. And by the time I do that, I feel really and now I come at it and I work like a mofo. I'm on it all the time. I mean. Just on the way over here, I was booking shows and setting up the retreats, and I'm on. I mean, this is my second brain. But I also know when to turn it off. I think that's it. I hope it wasn't too rambling.
No.
There's so much to talk about. I wanted, and then before we can take questions, because unless you're in a hurry, I have some business cards, and I say this, and I actually mean it. And it's interesting to see how few people, in the last 2 workshops, I mean, they were very enthusiastic, and I offered that everyone could take a card. And if they had a question that came up at some point, maybe something they thought I could help them with, they were free to send me a mail, and I'll always answer. I answer all my emails. It might take a while, but I will. And I'd say that out of a total between those 2 workshops of about 40 people, I think 12, 14 cards. And I thought, well, that's cool. I don't need them all to need me, but wow, I would have taken a card.
Right,
that's the animal I am. Even if I didn't know how I was going to use it, I'd just take it. Because that guy said he'd help. So I could use help. So why not? So I will offer you my business cards. And I have also these postcards about the retreats and about the I do
Cool.
Which is fun. And you can go and from my business card you can find I have several URLs for different projects, and you can kind of do more research. And I have over 80 master recorded songs for my various albums via my website. It's on Reverb Nation, and they're all free to download, because who's selling downloads? I mean, after 5 years of selling them, getting $3. To me, it's promotional. I don't know about you, but I would write songs if I never made a dime, and I want to give it away. My only rule is if you're making money off my music, I should do something. That's it. That's it. But it's something more. You know, it's a gift, and you give it away like when I said when we started. I received it, and it's my onus to give it away.
Mm-hmm.
So, any questions? Specific things? Anything I did or didn't touch on? No? You just soaked up a bunch. And hopefully,
Very informative.
Yeah,
cool.
It's a different.
Yes, you have a question?
No.
Oh, I thought you said you want to ask something. I'm sorry. Apologize. I didn't. This is interesting because 1, 2, 3, 4 people.
I do have your email, so
Yeah, you have my
I
contact
can already
info.
contact
Okay,
you.
so 3 business cards, and
Do you
yeah,
have an event
I'll give
this
you the
week?
promo too. Sorry?
Do you have an event this week? Because he also has your email, because he works with me.
Yeah, I have an event. You mean another event? Oh, as far as the card, I have another workshop in the morning.
Yeah,
It's okay?
We're good.
Okay, also my contact info is, you can
Okay.
actually get on my email list through the retreats too.
Thank
And,
you so much.